Hi, everybody. We'll do some quick introductions first. I am Spencer Soloway. I am the VP of Marketing at Horizon Labs. I also lead a lot of our ecosystem growth, in particular in relationship to our EVM sidechain and everything on that side. I'm excited to talk to you. I'm going to be the panel leader today, and I'm looking forward to talking with both of you. So if you'd like to introduce yourselves.
Yeah, thanks very much, Spencer. So I work with Spencer. I'm the VP of Strategy and Revenue at Horizon Labs. And just to give a little bit more context, Horizon Labs, we are the builder of Horizon Blockchain, and we will be shortly releasing a EVM platform called Eon, which we'll talk about a little bit in the context of what that means for safer NFT marketplaces, as we've been speaking to a lot of different marketplaces about integrating into our platform. So pass it over to you.
Hey everyone, I'm Uttam Singh. I'm working as a developer relations at Flare. For those of you who don't know Flare, Flare is a EVM compatible layer 1 blockchain. We just recently did our token distribution event in January, and we are telling ourselves as blockchain for data. We are providing highly, high integrity data in a decentralized way to all the developers to get more use cases, applications on chain. And right now we have two main core protocols. We have FTSO, that is our own Oracle, right? And the next one is a state connector that lets you know the state of another blockchain, and you can get data from Web2 API. So we're targeting cross-chain interoperability as well. And before that I was with Polygon working as a developer relations there. I'm also a Web3 and blockchain educator. You can follow me on Twitter and YouTube.
Great. So, today we're going to talk about safety in NFT marketplaces. And it really is a broad topic, right? Because when we're talking about safety, it's not just safety for users, it's also safety for brands. It's also safety for developers, right? And creators and people who are coming into this space who, we want to have a good experience. And we'll talk about that a little bit as well. And the dangers, are still manifold, right? And from the user side, it's everything that we always, of course, know about, from malicious contracts to rug pulls to, Discord attacks. On one side, and that's sort of from the security side, right? And then there's also concerns around price floors, right? Around price stability. There's also, a lot of concerns in terms of how do you safely build a community from the enterprise side. How do you do things in a legal, right, regulated way, or when there's no regulation, how do you kind of manage with that as well while keeping your options open? And in the lack of sort of thinking of this while technology is new, you sort of see people kind of look at it individually in one way or the other. You see brands that will come on and Lacoste is a good example of this last year. Well, they want to go and release an NFT collection, and they're so held back by the legal requirements from their legal team that it ends up sort of not really quite being connected to what is trying to be accomplished. But as we kind of get into that, I'm hoping that we can kind of start with developers and then talk about enterprises and then talk about consumers and kind of go from there. So why don't we start there in terms of what can be done to kind of make a better, safer experience for developers in the space?
I guess in terms of developers, first of all, as a users, you definitely need to see that all the smart contracts have been properly audited if you are using any of the NFT marketplaces. Other than that, in terms of like future, if I say the future is cross-chain, definitely we are far away, but the future is cross-chain. If we want to onboard the next billion users onto the Web3, we need to provide everything on a single place. We don't want them to, hey, go to MetaMask, change your network every time you want to buy an NFT. We want to provide a single place, just like a proper marketplace where you can get everything, right? So in terms of developers as well, if you are any of you are developers, there are a lot of tools that are coming into the market, layer 0 and all other chains that are claiming that we are targeting cross-chain interoperability, you can use our tools. So definitely make sure that those tools are reliable, because you are all those things are on stake. Like the industry is growing, there are a lot of money, right? So that it should be. I was talking to one of the sponsors in NFT.NYC, and he was like, "We have a tool called NFT Capsule where you can bunch all of your crypto and you can send it as an NFT, so you don't have to pay a lot of fees." And he was like, "We have only one single smart contract that is in the middle." So I'm like, what if that is hacked? Everything is at stake, right? Why can't you just create every time a smart contract every time you do a transaction? But that the security is definitely a problem in this space. And other than that, using great tools is very important, that have been already used by other people. And
Yeah, and I think it's an excellent point. And I think that there's a place where developers can help other developers, which ultimately comes down to users, right? Which is making sure that there's a similar experience in a lot of ways, regardless of which blockchain, regardless of which marketplace you're using, and that the tools that are out there, whether they be sort of the contract sniffers like the Fires of the world, right? Whether they be the Discord tools like the Collab, lands of the world, whether they be the things that can kind of help creators work with other creators and developers work with other creators, the reveals of the world and the revenue splits and all that kind of stuff, and making sure that that is integrated across. It ultimately not just helps developers, right? But it helps users. And Jordan, I think everything is going to kind of come back to the end user as well. But you've obviously been working a lot on the enterprise side and the brand side as well. And I would love to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I think that the security and safety aspects of NFTs have been a really big problem, actually, and big hurdle when we go and we speak to enterprises about getting them involved in the Web3 world. What we've found is that most enterprises that you speak to understand that this is the future. This is going to be the next generation of how the internet works. There's going to be a need to engage with customers in a different way than they have previously. But at the same time, they look at it and they go, we've been using Web 2 systems for a long time right now. We understand them. We understand the risks related to them. We don't open the newspaper every day and read about hacks of things happening on our Web 2 marketplaces. And I'm not sure I want to expose my brand at this point to something that might end up being risky and cause a reputational issue. It's really a big reach and a big ask for a lot of not very cutting edge companies to want to go and jump 2 feet forward into this industry. So what I think we'll end up seeing is quite a lot of kind of Web 2.5. And that's basically the idea of kind of these closed garden marketplaces that allow people and brands to expose their customer base to Web3 and the idea of digital assets, while also bringing in some natives of the Web3 world and saying, okay, this isn't exactly the decentralized public open world that I dream of, but I get to engage in a way that I like with the brand or the company that I'm into. So with that, I think we're going to be stuck in that probably Web 2.5 era for a while, until we have potentially at least a few years of tools, to your point, tools and proof that you're not going to end up exposing your hard-won customer base to hacks or rug pulls or any sort of other types of things that we're seeing right now. Just to expand a little bit on that too, this is the future stage, and we're thinking about what do NFTs mean, let's say 10 years from now. That really then starts changing the conversation, right? Because then we're thinking about the fact that a lot of the value that we hold right now in the world, we're going to have represented in digital form, because it'll improve the ability for us to trade with each other and improve the liquidity of things that are currently not liquid. When you reach that point, then the idea of security and safety becomes of the utmost importance. Right now we might be worried about banks, but at the end of the day, if I have my net worth locked in a Citibank account, even though it is centralized to a degree, I don't feel like I'm going to lose it. Whereas right now, if you had your entire net worth on a blockchain at this point, there is a lot higher risk. And I think that that's going to have to change before we really see an unleashing of what the future of this technology will be. I think it's going to happen. I think there's a ton of people out there working on it. But on our end, as a platform where we're integrating other technologies to kind of provide this platform for enterprises and Web3 developers to build on, our job is to really scout that out and make sure that we're at the cutting edge. And I know we're missing Ravi on the panel, so maybe Spencer, you can spend a little bit of time talking about some of the technologies that you've seen in your business development work building out our flagship platform.
Yeah, and it's also going to lead to some questions back to you too as well. I think that the Web 2.5 question is a really good and interesting one. I think that as we're moving forward, we are going to have to start to think about how do we get to a quote unquote safe place, that is truly decentralized, and what are the steps in between there. I agree with you, Jordan, that today there is a need for some of those guardrails in particular, and choosing the right ones in terms of moving forward the space, both from a practical level and from an idealistic level. We need to be very careful about making those right choices, right? Today we see a lot of that through a desire for web-based and account-based wallets, for example. Magic Link and sort of the work that they're doing with Stripe is probably the most well-known of that. And I think that that's great, right? It allows anybody to spin up a wallet to pay with a credit card or with a Swift wire transfer. It connects with a lot of different things. Magic Eden, I know, has been working with them on things as well. And that's terrific, but at the end of the day, it's an email sign-on wallet, and you are giving up some of the control, right, that you ultimately want. And that brings in users, but it also it takes away some of the benefit for enterprise at the end of the day, who want to be able to potentially cut out the middleman, cut out the Stripes of the world, or the Transacts of the world. And there's nothing wrong with what Transact and Stripe are doing, and they provide a valuable service. But essentially, Web 2.5 means that you're only taking part of the middleman out there, right? So it's a compromise. And I think that there are questions around that. I think that there are also questions around how do you get to a place where there's standards around the guardrails, right? And is that something where there are different wallets for different purposes? Is that something where we're all taking better advantage of MetaMask snaps? Potentially, right? Which certainly you may have an opinion on.
I'm actually looking forward to the integration of AI with the NFT marketplaces.
Yeah.
First of all, for God's sake, AI is not going to take your jobs, first of all. We need to start using those tools in a better way. We need to understand that we can use it. So one of the examples would be, you can check actually if your users are actually customer real users or they are bots that are manipulating the price, right? So we can use these AI tools to make sure that they are actually real users, right? We also can use any other AI tools just to identify other stuff, right? So we can use that. Other than that, I'm also looking forward to the email phishing attacks as well, like how we can reduce it. I was recently meeting a guy, and he told me that he got fished up because he got an email that, hey, you got a job from OpenSea, and he opened the mail, and all his NFTs were gone. So we also are lacking this basic education things as well. Because if we want to, move forward, we need to educate people more about these things, and if we want to build a safer NFT marketplace, then
and it's where do you put the guardrails in between, and how in front of people they are. It's an excellent point.
Yeah, and I think you're also going to see that as this develops in the future and the use of NFTs develops in the future, it's probably going to start off by developing with lower risk use cases, right? So for example, we've done a lot of work looking at elections and how to use NFTs to kind of potentially create a notarization of election results at different time periods. the idea of going and putting that out there with, you know, real nation states and real elections that have super real consequences for individuals all around the world is a very, very risky thing at this point in the use of this technology. But the idea of maybe using that technology first to work with a homeowners association and voting around that, or doing it with DAOs that might not have the same types of consequences, it's going to take a couple of years of testing systems with that, improving systems, using all of the tools that you're talking about, you know, trying to understand, okay, can AI develop to find any kind of flaws within, you know, smart contracts that we're deploying and things like that, before we can build up that trust level to go and use this technology for really what, you know, eventually it's going to be used for, to change the world, which is, you know, making a more decentralized place where we take out the power of nefarious centralized actors. So, you know, we're going to get there, but, you know, we have to do it slowly, because, you know, if we go too fast and we go and make a mistake like that, it might set, you know, the technology back 5 years, 10 years from the adoption that we really want to get to. So.
Yeah, and you know, I think that something that's really important to remember is it's okay that things are not totally figured out yet, right? You know, I often will sort of mention that with NFTs in particular, in some ways, you know, there's kind of like the toy phase or the early adoption phase or the figuring things out phase, right? Where, you know, a lot of things need to be tokenized and brought on board, you know, and what is happening now is, and I know everybody says this, but we're so early, right? You know, and what we're seeing now, what we're seeing at this conference, you know, so much of it is the first steps towards what it will become in a couple of years, right? And so, like, to your point, you know, it's that natural progression, right? And it's very hard to go from 0 to 100 very quickly.
Yep, absolutely. And you know, I think one other thing, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this too, is on the kind of privacy aspect of things. You know, at Horizon Labs, one of our main competitive advantages is we have a really large zero-knowledge cryptography team. And the idea of using zero-knowledge cryptography, not solely for the idea of scaling blockchains, but for creating privacy and selective confidentiality around that, is, I think, really, really important when you're looking at you know, use cases for NFT marketplaces for things like tickets and you know, having to perhaps, you know, show a very expensive NFT that you own in order to get gated access to something, opening you up to a vector of attack or something like that.
Right. And identity as well.
Identity as well, exactly. So I think that we're going to start seeing some real breakthroughs in the short run in that area. I don't know if you've kind of seen some stuff on the privacy side that from the developer relations standpoint that you wanted to
I've been
about.
looking into it. There are people who are using the ZK technology. It's an amazing technology. People are using it for scalabilities. We have seen a lot of layer 2s coming out, and people are doing stuff. There is a app called Polygon ID that people are using it as ID. Rather than showing your original ID, you can show this proof, which proves that you are maybe 18 years old or whatever it is, right? And
exactly, and you know, we're also working on some ID things kind of similar to Polygon, and I think that space is really going to help a lot on the security and safety aspects of both NFTs and just other blockchain use cases in general. So yeah, I think you know, that's going to probably be one of the first breakthroughs we have.
So I wonder as well, because what we're kind of getting at is that there's the one thing which is, okay, how do you create safety in NFT marketplaces around transactions around NFTs? But it sounds like you're both also pointing to this fact that in the end, NFTs are something that will provide safety for everything else, right? It's a way to bundle assets. It's a way to have identity. It's something where we can then put proofs in front of identity and to be able to transact things securely. Is that fair?
yeah, for sure. I mean, just closing remarks as well. Like, you know, NFTs are a way to bring the communities, the identity from an off-chain world to an on-chain world, right? And if we want to, there are two things that I really want to focus on. Is that Discord one. Discord is actually a community where people hang out. The NFT community mostly hang out, so we need to make sure that Discords are safe, because there have been incidents where people are taking over the bots of Discord and they're asking for few stuff and people give it since you want to join the Discord server. So you need to make sure that those are secure as well. And the other thing is we need to have proper rules and regulations around NFTs and their ownerships as well, because recently there was article about OpenSea that there are a lot of fake NFTs, not original art. People just copy it and then just post it as an NFT on different marketplace. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Hey Ravi, how are you? And we are looking forward to listening from you as well as what are your thoughts on future safe on NFT marketplace. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me see. Hi. Can I use yours? Hi. Sorry I'm late. I had a client fire drill. My name is Ravi. I'll keep it quick because I know we're at the end of the panel. But I started Protocol Law. I advise NFT marketplaces. I've advised Rarible, Snag Solutions. Snag was approved by the Bored Ape DAO to build the first NFT marketplace, independent NFT marketplace for the Bored Ape family of NFTs. I was published in the New York Law Journal, Law 360, on digital fashion, on the need for federal privacy laws in light of the Celsius Exchange data dump, and I'm currently seconded at a Fortune 500 payments processor, building digital wallets, tokenization, and all that stuff. So I also created the first Indian digital fashion collection as NFTs, which are covered by the Times of India and the Hindu, and I'll be at AI Fashion Week next week, so we're seeing a convergence there. But my view right now is there's kind of two main movements in the NFT marketplace space. You have platforms like OpenSea, and Blur, which are creating pro-trader tools. And then you have Rarible and Snag and other platforms that are creating custom storefronts for NFT platforms. The issues that both of them face are going to be different, right? If you're OpenSea and you're Blur, you're thinking of NFT, it may be a more financial instrument that has investment purposes. If you're something like Rarible or Starbucks Odyssey or any of those that are building storefronts, DressX even, then you're thinking of the NFT almost like a reward point, loyalty token, and that might fall under the purview of the FTC and state laws. So it really depends on what you're creating, which world you're living in, and I think those things are going to shake out.
I'm glad that you can make it, and thank you for coming and giving us your thoughts, and I hope that everything is okay. So thank you for that. I know we're running out of time, so in terms of very, very last thoughts, 5 seconds or less, sort of what each person is most excited about moving forward in the space.
I'm excited to get past the worries about security and safety and use NFTs and blockchains to have wider use cases around the world to really, change the way we live.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to more of security. I think that everyone should have security as their priority. I think, decentralization should be there, but security should be on top of it. So always make sure that, your protocol or your tools are always secure, because there are users that are trusting you, that are trusting your marketplace, that are trusting the community, right? So, yeah.
For me, I think generative art is going to be huge, and where NFTs, the next big thing I think in NFTs is going to be combining generative art and AI, where AI can now create fake songs, fake music. Drake can have a new song that's completely AI, but in the form of Ice Spice. And so you're going to have tremendous amounts of fraud, but if you can take the NFT and associate identity and authenticated identity to the art of the artist or whatever, then you found a way to cut past the fraud that might come up in the generative art and AI movement. And I think that is going to be a really important place for the two things to touch points together. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.